I might, if it's okay, Walter, turn to you. Africa only has 6% of cultivated land with irrigation compared to 19% in Latin America and 37% in Asia. Do you see obviously potential for expanding irrigation, but also linking that to renewable energy targets?
Yes, definitely yes. And I think should be a message we should prepare for the COP27 in Cairo. But I think that the idea of these meetings is to have key messages to send to Sharm el Sheikh in was it October, November, on the COP27. Yes. There are several techniques are approved on how to increase the irrigated surface and at the same time being environmental friendly. We've been experimenting in several areas, including in the areas where the water scarcity is it's a big issue, like in Chad or in the northern part of Cameroon. We should consider increase irrigated surface is important, but if we do not consider other aspects of the value chain you are considering, for instance, if you consider the rice, to increase the surface with irrigated rice, you should consider the access to credit and above all access to the market. Because in most of these areas, the increased production is relatively easy to do, but to sell the production is quite difficult. There's no rules, there's no linkage to the market, there's no processing units. So it is important to increase the irrigated surface, but at the same time, it is important to create the conditions for the increased production to reach the market. That's and I hope that by the end of this meeting here, we will have some key messages for the big decision makers in Egypt at the end of the year, COP27, because that is our main objective here. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yeah, it's a conversation, right? Yeah. Whenever we talk about water, irrigation, agriculture, and energy in, let's say, arid. We say arid and semi-arid in English too. I'm having, these alerts saying, okay, let's calm down. Maybe there is like groundwater, but I've seen so many examples of groundwater being depleted not because of climate change, because of human, extraction, let's say, and it's generally, the depletion of water resources sometimes go also in the framework of an industrial agriculture, or is also related to let's say bad social conditions for the workers, and I won't point any country or example, but it's very, very important. As you said, Walter, is very important also to link irrigation or water systems with environmental sustainability, but also with let's say right-based approaches. So this is the reason why we work humbly at IOM on the link between them.
In the energy sector, what do you see the role of small off-grid renewable projects that might be linked to more local level irrigation and also decentralised water treatment plants from your experience?
Well, thank you again. I think when it comes to the off-grid renewables, I think this is one of the core areas that the IRENA is engaging with a number of African countries, especially in Burkina Faso, Mali, and other countries in this part of the world, I think off-grid is one of the ways that you can integrate the renewables into the life cycle analysis. Why I'm saying is that some of these interlinkages, obviously there is a number of obstacles on the nexus compelling governments and the private sector, communities, academias, and other stakeholders to explore integrated solutions. I think we need to find an integrated solution to ease the pressure and formulate development pathways based on sustainable and efficient use of limited resources. As we see that we have limited resources, but renewable energy technologies obviously can help to address the trade-offs between water, energy, and food, bringing substantial benefits in different sectors. Again, I think energy serves both food and water sectors. Africa, we all say that is rich in renewable energy sources, including hydro, sun, wind, and other forms. As a result, needed transformative adaptation in Africa can be achieved implementing appropriate approaches to support the use of renewable sources of energy in both food and water sectors. Integrating this source of energy in African countries, national plans of both agriculture and water sector is crucial step towards not only fighting climate, but also meeting the water, energy, and food needs of the continent that are often met by fossil fuel-based energy. I can still go on if you want. Obviously, in ARENA, we explore new opportunities and technologies to adopt renewables that can ease providing energy transition in the area of food and water security. Again, renewable energy technologies can boost water security by improving accessibility, affordability, and safety, adding this into renewable energy in agriculture chains. I'll stop here, and then I'll also touch upon what we do with the geothermal work as well. Within ARENA, we work closely with partners.
We are podcasters.
They're joining us virtually, yep. Mr. Abdul is still talking, so we'll come back to you, Mr. Kimini, after the question in the room from our friend from Kenya.
Okay, so we work very closely with partners through different levels of cooperation to present new opportunities for clean energy technologies, including geothermal, to support the development of sustainable food and water systems. We fully integrate the approach to resource planning would be desirable for nexus-friendly policy making, which ARENA promotes the use of geothermal heat in agri-food value chain. There are several benefits, including increased food productivity due to growing crops and animals in optimal environments, and reduced food spoilage due to timely processing, drying and hydration, and cold storage, refrigeration. 2, ARENA highlights the different platforms, the need for standardized data collection efforts that could help to overcome existing challenges associated with consistency, comparability, scale, and the lack of time series. 3, we also aim to empower women and youth who are heavily involved in food production, in particular in developing countries in Africa, and in general improving the living standards of local communities. So we do undertake a variety of forms of energy, including geothermal, which is also broadly available in the African continent, especially places like Kenya and other places. But I think I wanted to stress that this is the opportune time to invest in renewable-based agri-food water production. That the world is challenged with the security of energy, food, water, and of course the climate crisis.
Yeah, thank you very much. My comment, maybe question, is associated with some of the comments about expanding area irrigation in Africa. And sometimes I get a little bit worried about that, because I look at certain areas which is where irrigation is, being undertaken, particularly if I take examples of this stuff. And I see those river basins is already conflict because there's not enough water that's going around. And when we do projections, on from climate change, but also from population and water demand, then you see that there's water deficit currently of maybe 75%, and then the water demand is going to increase by so many percentage. And then you wonder, can you really increase any irrigation? It's just going to increase the problem. And with the climate change and with the glaciers and the snows disappearing, the high mountain which are major contributors to the water flow, then we really have to be thinking about that. When you talk about energy, and we are looking at major energy types, whether it's geothermal or hydro, etc. But the local people there, they use biomass fuel. They don't use electricity for cooking or anything. So we really also have to think about that. I mean, this integration needs to be looked at very localized level, and we see how we solve that problem at that local level. That's why I'm talking about issues like rainwater harvesting to support some of these things at very localized level. And it doesn't have to be, it can be at some small household levels, and we've seen this happening successfully in some parts of Kenya. We can give this examples.
Thank you, and I'll go to the question at the back and another one here, and then we'll ask the panel to reflect on those comments and questions.
But maybe you want to take first from the panel because he lost the connection. I'm happy to wait.
Mr. Kimman, are you happy to wait for a couple more questions, and then we might throw to you, or do you want to jump in now?
No, I think that's fine. But if you want, I wanted to comment on the irrigation issue if you want.
Yes.
I can come in later. That's fine.
Okay, yeah, please jump in on the irrigation issue now, and then we'll hand over to you.
Very good. Yeah, thank you very much. I think I very much agree with the last comment from Kenya on the expanding the irrigation. I think critical is how can you establish a sustainable irrigation system? I think that's very useful. Sustainable irrigation system, do we have sustained supply of water for your irrigation system? And then you have to think about how efficiently you can utilize water for your irrigation system, and how efficiently you can use energy as input for your irrigation system. So I think that's critical. So it requires a bit of assessment how much water is available for irrigation. And then you have to also consider not only water abstraction for irrigation, but the irrigation system has to consider also in terms of managing the sources for water for irrigation system. So it's just abstraction of water for your irrigation system, but also you have to consider how you manage the source water for your
experience. Based on your experience on the ground, when you talk to the communities, what is your perception of what they understand as their primary need? Because this is an egg and chicken discussion, right? But if I go back to the communities, where do I start? Is it the water? Is it the energy? Is it the food? What is it in your
any kind of production? The farm field school is basically, it's an open school where the farmers, the beneficiaries, they decide what they want to study, what kind of curriculum they want. So if the question is the climate change, they will ask the questions, they will find the answers, and some experts in specific fields will be there around if there is a need to intervene. So basically the bottom-up approach is there, because otherwise it will never work. So the farm field school, we are using it now in Chad in a large project where we are dealing with humanitarian development, peace, nexus. So we are providing immediate food supply in a partnership with the WFP and with UNICEF, and FAO is doing the provision of seeds and for emergency agricultural requirements, and development that follows up. But the basic is the curriculum. What they want to discuss is defined at farm field school level. The farm field school is not a school, it's under a tree. You meet under a tree and you decide what to do. Thank you.
Thank you, Walter. And Abdullah, did you have anything to add before we open the floor up to questions?
Not really, just to briefly respond to Masala. I think I used to work on the field too before I joined here. I think it's a very kind of a tricky way, because what do you perceive from the community? Of course, I mean, we do undertake the consultations, but then when it comes to some of the policies that doesn't meet, so it's kind of tricky to kind of blend the kind of consultative bottom-up approach to inform the policymakers, because often then you kind of have to change the entire design, whatever that, because at the end of the day, it is the community who kind of accepts whether it's going to go or not, because otherwise it's very difficult to sustain anything on the ground. So that's why we within IRENA, we do work on the ground.
Speech or something?
On the ground. The first and foremost is important that we do undertake the consultations on the ground, the needs of the people, whether it's agri-food, water, energy on the ground. So we do formulate that based on the consultative process, but then obviously we sit with all the stakeholders, ranging from the community plus the policy plus the scientific academia, so that we are all integrated, harmonized within one package, because otherwise it's just not going to work.
Great, thank you. I'll open up the floor to questions now. We have a question online from Ahmed. Ahmed, can you hear us? Feel free to unmute yourself and ask a question to the panel.
Thank you so much. And just a quick comment. I think for water, for irrigation, irrigation usually comes with a cost, right? So to that here, and irrigation is very huge here. So it comes across, and let us reach the right to support the rainwater harvesting. I think rainwater harvesting could, unlock a lot of potential in Africa if we go that way. The other issue on COP27, I think we have to go to implementation, because I think we talk a lot. So we now have, I think, COP27 have to focus on what agreed already and committed, and try to move to action. I mean, that's for me the key message for that. The other area I would like also to focus on investment, as Idan mentioned, the AIP. I think now working start to move up national agenda. And in AIP now, we see head of state. About 7 of head of state, I think they are there, getting on the. So we have to move towards that as for climate resilience at a higher level, at national agenda. It's already the policies and the strategies, but how to operationalize. I think our friend from Walter said that you have to make the policies and the strategies there, but you have to make it operational. And thank you so much.
Great, thank you, Ahmed. And we had a question in the room here as well.
Yeah, it's not so much a question, but I'm trying to join the conversation. So my name is Sander Zwart, working for the International Water Management Institute. I'm based in West Africa, but our institute is working across Asia and Africa. I'm really delighted to hear you talking about the irrigation and also the suggestion to put it on the agenda in the COP27. The point I want to make is that when we talk about irrigation, so often we talk about schemes, that have high environmental impact. They're very costly, and usually the productivities or the success rate is quite low. If we talk about Ghana, which I know quite well, then if the total irrigated area, only 10% is from formal schemes. 90% of the irrigation is actually just developed by entrepreneurs or by small-scale farmers. The largest part actually by the small-scale farmers that have invested themselves in small-scale infrastructure, just about to tap into the groundwater resource. Nowadays talk about farmer-led irrigation development. So how can we enable farmers to invest in irrigation themselves? And it's not so much about giving the tools to them, but creating that enabling environment to make sure that they have the finance, they have the knowledge, they have the link to the private sector to obtain, and eventually, of course, also to the market. So India is doing quite a lot of work in that field, farmer-led irrigation development. I'm working myself on the development of a digital app, that links farmers, smallholder farmers, to the suppliers of equipment, services of irrigation. We're also working with private sector to create inclusive business models to ensure that, usually they think of small farmers, they don't have funds, they don't have assets, we can't work with them. But with them we are working together to show them that the smallholder farmers is not one homogeneous group, but it's actually, there's a large variation in the type of farmers that they are. And we've created such business models, finance models, that actually also the smallholder farmers can now invest into these resources. So it brings also the point that if we talk about irrigation, it's usually projects, and also the donors they like projects. And when I talk about the African Development Bank, they only think about kilometers of canals, dams, and cubic meters of concrete they have to deploy. But actually, my message is don't do that. Work with the farmers. They know what is best for them, and if they have the possibility, they will invest. There's a remark on the sustainability as well. I think at the level that we are working with the development of irrigation is very dispersed in the landscape. I believe that the impact is quite low, but we have tools developed in IMI that can assess these water resources. It's called Water Accounting Plus. It's a tool that spatially assesses the water resources as publicly available data. That can help also you to analyze, if I make intervention here, what will happen to the water resources for the other users. When we talk about other users, it's really about nature, the ecosystems, it's industry, domestic, all what the river discharges, for example, so all that is included. So, but that's my contribution, not so much a question, but just to give a bit different perspective on irrigation development as well.
No, thank you very much. Very useful, particularly water accounting, understanding how much water is available to share and allocate between different users. Anyone else in the audience like to join the conversation? Feel free to make any comments or ideas to share with the panel. No, we've gone a little bit over time. We started late, so I'm happy starting with you, Mr. Kimini. I guess where to from here? Where do you see the key areas for the water, energy, food nexus in terms of strengthening policy responses to climate adaptation and resilience in Africa? And then I'll pass on to the other panel members. Thank you for your patience as well, Mr. Kimini, with dropping in and out. We do appreciate you joining us virtually.
Thank you very much, Rory. Thank you, colleagues. Probably I think at policy level, it would be interesting to establish, the first thing is we need to establish the conceptual understanding. Why should Africa embrace the nexus approach? So I think we need to define the need clearly. I'm speaking based on the experience from the SADC region, Southern African Development Community, which implemented a WEF Nexus project for, currently in the second phase. They concluded already 4 years already. So as part of that process, actually the first thing they did in the SADC region was trying to define what does Nexus mean for the SADC region. So I think it's very, very critical. So they defined it, why they have to embrace the Nexus approach. The second thing is a high-level political ownership for the Nexus approach. I think that's very important. Unless you get the support from the ministers of water, ministers of agriculture, minister of energy, I don't think you can really move forward in terms of coordinating, bringing the sectors, because we are talking about decision making by the ministries. So the SADC, what they did was they created a platform which bringing together water, energy, and agriculture ministers at the regional level. So they facilitated that platform, which is very, very useful. And then creating a governance framework at regional level. That's what they did. So I think that's very important. The governance framework is how you make your decision within the Nexus framework. Even though you are making decision in the agriculture sector, then how do I see my decision within the perspective, the framework of the Nexus approach? I think that's very useful. And the other aspect is a platform which SADC established, is a regional platform for the sectors, but also for the other stakeholders at regional level. And then they also developed what they called it, I mentioned about investment, that they wanted Nexus to also facilitate enhanced investment in the region. So they developed what they called a Nexus screening tool. It's actually a web-based tool they developed. Like if you have like any initiative, either in the agriculture, water, or energy sector, then you have to apply that tool, which will help you to screen the Nexus opportunities. So you can see, I mean, if it's like water, you can see how your project will be contributing to enhancing water or energy or agricultural resources in that system. So there are a number of tools now, they are moving towards actual implementation. So in short, what I want to say is at Pan-African level, I think we need to define the need for the Nexus clearly, why vis-a-vis WEF security, but also climate resilience and environmental sustainability. I think that's one. Then high-level political ownership and establish the governance framework, and probably I think we can consider like a coordinating unit, probably after African Union Commission, probably to facilitate a continental level dialogue and a platform for exchanging some experiences. I think I will see it from there. Thank you.
Great, thank you, and thanks again for joining us, Mr. Kennedy. Panel members, would you like to have a last reflection on the topic of where to from here? What are some of the key issues you think should be incorporated in COP27? I'm sure they're having similar discussions right now in Stockholm World Water Week as well about how to bring forward the water, energy, food nexus. So a quick reflection, and then we'll close the session. Thank you.
Very quick, I think Kinemalangera indicated some good points forward, and that's first to convince the ministries, and they should bring the message to the COP27. I am still hoping that this week will produce some clear message that the ministers can bring to Egypt and discuss. And irrigation, water, financing, these are main issues that have been there on the table for many, many years, and they need to be tackled. They need to be, ministerial level need to take actions on that. And I think the COP27 is the right place to do it. And the moment it's more than right now.
For me, it's more the human and social dimension of this nexus. So never, never, ever forget that, and maybe also make it central, the human dimension of the nexus, so that we can make it even more. I mean, transformative. The adaptation can make it even more transformative and long-term.
I think from our perspective, I think it's very clear that the whole issue of nexus and renewable gas, energy, food, water is essential to bring the coherence of the both mitigation and adaptation and resilience of the entire climate processes, which in turn then you are moving towards achieving your targets both on the NDCs and SDGs, because SDG 7 is critical and SDG 13 climate goals and the NDC targets. So it's a kind of a package. If you address both the nexus, energy, food, water, then we are kind of ticking number of other boxes. So that's my case. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Well, thank you to everyone for joining our conversation today, and obviously we're happy to have a further discussion outside or during the coffee break. So I'd like to now give a big round of applause to our panellists, both in person and virtually. So thank you all.
How are you? Yeah? English, Français? And let me give you my card. So this is really interesting to me, your vision on the irrigation and the work that you do.